The Republic of Singapore is an island city-state located in Southeast Asia. Singapore has changed a lot throughout the years, that's why it's seen as an increasing island. Its strategic position and free port status turn Singapore into a huge trading and shopping center that attracts large Chinese immigration mainly. The fact that it has a neutral international policy and the different trade agreements have led to this island to have an exponential demographic, commercial, and financial growth. This growth caused the expansion of its territorial waters. Because of this, Singapore has many diplomatic confrontations with neighboring countries. Nowadays, Singapore is considered one of the most expensive countries to live in, even though it is one of the most smaller countries in Southeast Asia. Also, it's seen as a reference point for marketing, industry, tourism, and technology. In addition, it's one of the most developed countries in Asia and in the world, taking into account the strong measures imposed by their government against corruption, generating an environment of legal security for everybody. 100 years ago, in 1919, after the World War I, after the success of the rubber plantation industry in Malaya, it led to the formation of the Overseas Chinese Bank with two rubber magnates who founded it. Also, in this year, on March 10, there was a scheme for higher education. A committee of prominent residents and educationalists recommended the establishment of a college for higher education to be known as the Raffles College. In this Primestone report, the committee added that it is needed to recognize the existing system of English schools. On March 21st, the Chinese high school was established, and part of the entertainment in this era consisted on dancing and sea sports like boat races. St. Andrew's Medical Mission was established on October 18, 1913 by Charlotte and David Ferguson, a doctor and wife of the first Anglican Bishop of Singapore. With donations from the St. Andrew's Cathedral, they started this project. Its services were provided free to those who could not be able to afford them. This had an amazing impact with high patient volume, so they decided to build a hospital called the St. Andrew's Mission Hospital. In 1924, the hospital began to set up specialist clinics between these ones, an optical clinic for abandoned blind children, and a venereal disease clinic for women. In 1933, an antenatal clinic was established. The hospital was founded with voluntary donations. In 1921, school health services were established. During 1923, a formal organization of professional architects was formed. The society began with 11 founding members. The objectives of the society was to be a platform for the architectural community, to cooperate and discuss technical matters and advise the authorities on the architectural matters. During this period of time, many societies were formed in different areas of interest, but all of them aimed for helping the development of the city. Taking into account that Singapore was still recovering after a war, many of the infrastructure of the city was being improved with these associations and people who knew about architecture. In the political aspects, the first political Malay association in Singapore, called Singapore Malay Union, was established on May 14 in 1926. The members were mostly journalists, government officials, merchants, and religious standing between others. They advocated the socio-economic progress of the Malays, especially in terms of opportunities for higher education among the younger generation. As a transportation method, they had cars and wheelbarrows. 50 years ago, the Environmental Public Health Act started on January 2nd in 1969. This aimed to improve Singapore's public health laws by standardizing the code governing public health matters like hygiene standards of public places, as well as the provision of public cleaning services. This began after the government introduced a series of measures to raise Singapore's environment standards in order to make Singapore a cleaner and greener city. The establishment of the National Junior College as the first specialized co-educational government school on January 20 in 1969. This consisted of 572 students that were able to choose their subjects under the college lecture and tutorial system. This resulted in over 40 different subject combinations. The National Book Development Council on Singapore was established on February 13, 1969 to promote the development of the local book industry by supporting publishers, writers, and readers. This book council is guided by its vision of establishing and developing Singapore as the center for publishing and literary arts in Asia. Its purpose was getting professionals in the book world. The Monetary Authority of Singapore is the Singapore Central Bank and regulator of the financial sector. It was established by the Monetary Authority of Singapore Act on 1970 and began operation on January 1, 1971. The main functions were to govern the nation's monetary policy, manage the foreign reserves, regulate, supervise, and monitor Singapore's banking and finance sectors, and foster the growth of Singapore's financial industry. The architecture also had some improvements, so more monuments were implemented. The Preservation of Monuments Board was established on January 29 in 1971. The board was responsible for keeping monuments safe and as historical landmarks that provide a link to Singapore's past. It identifies buildings and structures of historical, cultural, archaeological, architectural, or artistic interest, and recommends them for preservation as natural monuments. Its functions also include the documentation of information on these monuments, promotion of public interest in monuments, and provision of guidelines and support on the preservation, conservation, and restoration of monuments. In the infrastructure of the city, many buildings can be seen. The transportation methods were based on cars and some boats. 20 years ago, on April in 1999, the report by the Singapore 21st Committee titled "Together We Make the Difference" proposed a new national vision to strengthen Singapore's society in the 21st century. The Singapore 21st Vision consisted in a three-way partnership between people in the public sector and the private sector to build greater social cohesion, sense of community, and national belonging among Singaporeans. The Asian financial crisis that started in July 1997 caused several of Asian countries to experience a sharp decline in the values of their currency, stock markets, and other asset prices. The crisis threatened these countries' financial system and disrupted their real economies, and caused adverse social consequences with financial and political problems. In tourism aspects, 21 Blueprint guided the growth of Singapore's tourism sector from 1996 to 2000. Formulated through a consultative process involving top public and private sector exclusivities, this was the third tourism blueprint since the first was unveiled in 1984. The objective of Tourism 21 was to transform Singapore into a tourism capital in order to attract more tourists, and it produces higher levels of tourism expenditure. The Great Singapore Workout, launched on October 3rd in 1993, is an aerobic routine introduced as part of the National Healthy Lifestyle campaign to encourage Singaporeans to exercise and live healthy lifestyles. The workout is made up of a series of stretching and lunging exercises. The low-impact workout does not involve jumping, making it safe for any healthy person of any age to participate in. Also, in the health aspects, the first National Health Survey was developed by the Ministry of Health in 1992 to assess the health status and lifestyles of Singaporeans. In the education sector, the Nanyang Technological University was formally established on July 1st in 1991. The main purpose of this university was to adopt a practice-oriented program to train engineers. Also, civics and moral education is introduced into the education system. In the architecture, something new arrived to the Singaporeans' lives. The Picture House by Keathley organization is a cinema for art house films in Singapore. Though it is commonly believed to be the first movie cinema to screen non-mainstream films. As architecture and infrastructure, many buildings made of steel were seen all around the city. You could also appreciate houses. Basically, the architecture and infrastructure is very modern. As a transportation method, they use cars, cableway, and boats. Nowadays, Singapore is considered one of the most expensive countries to live in. We can see many modern architecture and infrastructure. The Singapore Management University is Singapore's first government-funded private managed university on July 29 in 2000, established in order to become the main provider of undergraduate finance and business education in Singapore. The Singapore Democratic Alliance was formed on May 28, 2001. This is a coalition of political parties in Singapore. At the time of its formation, the alliance comprised the Singapore People's Party, the National Solidarity Party, the Singapore Justice Party, and the Singapore National Front and the Singapore Malay National Organization. Uniquely Singapore campaign was launched on March 9, 2004. This was the destination brand of Singapore from 2004 to 2010, launched by the Singapore Tourism Board. This was used to market Singapore as a unique tourist destination where aspects of a modern living environment coexist with the traditions and cultures of a multicultural society. The National Mental Health Blueprint is announced in 2007. This is a 5-year plan that looks forward to strengthen the emotional resilience and mental well-being of Singaporeans to reduce the probability and impact of mental health problems. The blueprint was the collective effort of medical and mental health professionals, social workers, counselors from various government agencies, and medical institutions. We can say that this country is a leader in economic prosperity. Because of its great trading history, nowadays it is considered to be a safe country at the moment of negotiating. This provides safety to the investors. In this order of ideas, it is really easy to make business in Singapore. The unemployment rate is of 2%. The marketing in here have made this Asian country one of the most open markets in the world. This has facilitated 7,000 multinationals to settle there. In Singapore, education is considered to be the base of absolutely everything. In fact, it is a world benchmark for education quality. That's why every citizen is required to attend a school. The GDP in Singapore consists in 323.9 thousands of millions of dollars. The city of Singapore is full of skyscrapers. It is known as an ultra-modern and technology city. In the future, we can predict that this city-state is going to continue growing. The tourism is going to increase even more. There are some overpopulation issues that may be fixed in the future or may get worse and become problematic. The economy will improve as well as the industry. More job opportunities can be found and more immigrants may come to increment the cultural diversity. One interesting fact of Singapore is the first successful ascent of Mount Everest by Singaporean team on May 25th in 1998. 2 members of the Singapore Everest team, accompanied by 4 Nepalese Sherpas, successfully summited the 8,848-meter high Mount Everest. This city is seen as an amazing opportunity to invest, not to mention its majestic architecture and infrastructure. This seems like a magical place to live in. I think that history is involved in how the country has evolved and how it is nowadays. The fact that it was a trading port 100 years ago and now it is a capital for business means everything. Everything in life is a process. This country started from almost nothing and now is a worldwide recognized country. We can all feel like an 1819 Singapore, but with effort we can be a 2019 Singapore. It's all about believing in yourself and cooperating. Singapore is where it is because of its citizens and how they all cooperated in order to make it an outstanding country and a wonderful place to live. Together we make the difference. I think this is what the best describes Singapore. When a group of people get together with an objective in common, they can achieve everything and make a difference. I think that this is something we can learn from Singapore and apply it in our daily lives. And basically, as a society, we can make a difference and help this world to be a better place and help to save our planet and build a brighter future.